All right, everybody, good afternoon and welcome on back. Continuing along our Monday, our kind of chaotic Monday here, nevertheless. But here we are heading into this end of day, though. Like I said, Monday afternoon, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Welcome on back for our afternoon meeting. Let's get a quick sound check just to begin. Great to see everybody, though, at least. Andrea, Dennis, Jerry. He says, darn, missed the run on MGNX, which we'll get to in just a moment. Great to see everybody else, though. Donald, Cliff, Ralph, all out and clear. Perfect. And I should be good also on social media. I think I'm good. All right, looking at StreamYard. Good to go. Perfect. All right, guys. So really quick, just a quick housekeeping note to begin. As a lot of us in our live trading room know, and of course, perhaps a lot of us on social know, we had a big issue getting into the room this morning. So just really quick heads up, more so than anything, we appreciate your patience. But we had sent out a couple of emails just a moment ago, guys, a little bit earlier, in fact, heading into the late morning, with directions on how to log into the trading room, what you need to do, especially if you're still stuck watching on social media. But we've been looking into this issue. We're fixing it currently. We have an alternative route to get into the trading room. So most of us are already in here. Again, I appreciate all of your patiences. But again, we'll look to resend out emails, the same email that I just referenced, later on this afternoon, tomorrow morning, just to make sure we're good to go. But nevertheless, though, guys, whether you're across social media, whether you're live in the trading room, let's see what we can have going into the end of this Monday. So the Dow, we ended up seeing make a nice squeeze back up, gap down overnight and then, or over the weekend, I should say, and ended up taking a little bit of time, but ended up running up pretty well after the market opened up. Hey, heading into this week, guys, compared to last week with the amount of earnings reports that were released, between prior to the market open and after the market close, we don't have as much today, or I should say this week, if anything, I should say today in particular is probably our best day. We had a few stocks this morning, a bunch of stocks this afternoon that are, ones that we've been trading. So I look forward to it. We have tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday, the federal budget report right at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then also later on this week, a couple of other reports coming out with retail sales on Friday, and then the initial jobless claim on Thursday morning. So, there's still things that will move the market. But all in all, though, took a little bit this morning, right, for a Monday, so to say. Let's go through a couple that ended up doing well that we called out and traded, at least from our morning watch list, and a couple of others otherwise. And then we'll look to see what else is out there going into the afternoon. So let's start with the one that did not do so well after 9:30. It was one that did great in pre-market, but APOP, APOP, and in fact, let me go back to my pre-market settings here. There we go. APOP popped shortly after 7 a.m. Eastern time. So if you're able to trade prior to 8 o'clock, you were able to get most of the run up at least. There was still good opportunity though, a little bit after in pre-market, shortly around 8:30 Eastern time. You could see where it ended up pulling back down towards pretty much where we had those weird spikes. I think the price was like 571 or so. Oh no, much lower, 470-ish roughly. I'm sorry, 471. Right over here, we ended up seeing smart money filled right off of 470, 471, ended up holding nicely as a support. So that was a nice squeeze that we had in pre-market, but unfortunately, after the open, it had a nice squeeze up, but not a lot of us followed that up early on. And if they did, you were more so looking for the breakout over 5. And at that point, well, that's where we ended up seeing this come kind of crashing back down. So this was a nasty trade shortly after the market opened up. And at this stage, well, it's still making new lows, at least across the regular session. So I wouldn't be surprised if this keeps going down, guys. In fact, it looks like there's like a potential support, if that's what you even want to call it, just from the pre-market off 350. Roughly, right? Maybe it hits 350 and bounces, but either way, we're not going to focus on this for the afternoon. Maybe some point this week, given how much it ran up, if it pulls back, maybe we'll see like a 50-cent dollar move on the way back up, maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, but I don't think it's going to happen this afternoon. And if it does, then perhaps we'll look to find it on our scanner at least. All right, so APOP was at least good for us in the pre-market. Another one that ended up doing pretty good for us, guys, and this one was, of course, more so after 9:30. It was the Mark trade, MARK. It's our top percent gainer right now. I was going to get to this in a moment anyway. But MARK, I say that surprisingly because if you look on the daily chart, the last week or so. It's almost been, day over day, just perfect straight up. So at what point do we expect to see this really pull back and have a down day? I mean, there's no rule of thumb that we provide that says that a stock can't keep going up higher, but history says for as much as this stock does go up, it's got to pull back at some point. And I'm not talking about necessarily just, one day. I'm talking about a couple of days' time, like we ended up seeing just earlier on APOP and a couple of the others. But Mark, we ended up seeing day over day squeeze up. So after the open, it broke out, but then it just kept going up. Broke above resistance 130, broke above the next resistance 150, all the way up to 195 or so. So this had a hell of a move up. Now I think we're getting our pullback on this trade, at least. From 195, it seems like it's pulling back to support roughly around that 170-ish price, 172. But for right now, for as much as this moved up, I feel like it's not going to continue. And if I'm wrong, if I have egg on my face after this, and if this just keeps breaking higher, again, kind of similar to APOP, we'll find this on our scanner at some point, and hopefully it wouldn't be too late. But I'm at least going to go with the odds on this one, and we're going to pass on putting this on our afternoon list. All right, UAVS. We had a few others, guys, that did well, at least from the gainers list, as always. But, UAVS, we ended up seeing breakout. This was one of our better trades, at least after the open as well. Broke out above resistance that Jerry called out, I think, at first to the punch off of 130. Ended up squeezing all the way up, as you could see, to 170. Moving up now. So maybe I'll put this on our list. I have no problem coming back to this, at least on the side, putting this on our side list, UAVS. Doesn't seem as if there's like a whole chunk of volume for this thing to cut through. I mean, there is volume on the book, including the 32,000 share order that's at 160. But above that, it's not mission impossible. It's not as if at every price level there's 50,000 shares on the ask. Like Mark, M-A-R-K, that's what we ended up seeing. So I don't mind coming back to this one. UAVS, ran up earlier. All right, I want to check in on a couple of stocks right now, stocks that we've been calling out from earlier today and from last week too. I took my eyes off this one just for the last hour or so, but typing in the trading room. But MGNX. So a couple of shouts on this one. Yeah, MGNX, we saw, ended up making a new high, ended up squeezing above Wednesday's breakout run up. And of course, now, as you could see, it seems to be pushing back up, guys. I mean, ended up holding support beautifully. A double bottom or triple bottom, so to say, off of 2480, essentially squeezed back above 25 and ran. But at this point now, I have no problem putting this one just on our list right away. Definitely a level 5 stock through and through, just given the spread, the lack of volume at a lot of these price levels you see on the book. So this thing could be flying around up and down. It's shortable. I know that Ben was following this up and down as a long and a short earlier. So, again, more of a level 5 stock, but I'd be remiss to not just mention this, put this on our list. Also, guys, really quick, we'll be talking about this, after the bell today, or at least going into the close today in our live trading room, and more so tomorrow, also in the trading room, just as we open up for the next day. But a couple of stocks that are moving actually well right now, and they have earnings after the bell. NVAX, this thing is at 23.50 as we speak, new high of the day, up 25+%. They report earnings after the bell, guys. So normally, and I know there might be like one or two of us in the room that tend to trade stocks before their earnings, but normally stocks don't make this type of extension, right before they post earnings. So I'm pretty interested in seeing what happens after the bell for NVAX. I mean, certainly at this point going into this afternoon already, so we'll put this on our list as well. NVAX. I want to just quickly go to a stock that posted earnings from last week as a quick reminder. Peloton. We ended up seeing Peloton make a pretty strong run up right before their earnings that day, or at the end of the bell. And albeit maybe a slightly different case where this stock was breaking all-time highs already, but we ended up seeing Peloton make a sharp run going into the day before they posted earnings. And then there are the earnings. And then the next morning, a big gap up. And then, it took some time, but it ended up running up pretty nicely afterwards the following days. So I'm wondering to see if that will be the same to be said for a stock like NVAX. The other stock as well, INO. We ended up seeing the INO trade make a nice run up at least. Going into the afternoon. So, squeezing up here from 1140 up to 12. I have no problem putting this on our list, but it is kind of rare. Again, I normally don't tend to see the stocks making these types of big, steady moves up right before the end of the day where they're posting earnings. So, hopefully it's not a head fake of any nature where, just pops 12 here and then comes crashing down. But great setup, at least. Looks like a whole bunch of volume just got filled off the ask at 12. Oh, yeah, look at all this. In yellow, yellow, green right there. So a ton of buying right off at 12, it seems like, for the INO trade. So not a bad list to begin, albeit, these three are pretty volatile. INO, I'd say, is the least of those. INO is probably more of like a level 3-ish, 2 to 3 stock, I'd say. All right, so you know what? I kind of just building up the list right now. Let's just go from top to bottom across the gainers and losers list, guys. I see some trades already from John, Karan, Jerry, Ben here in the chat board, all from you guys. So let's just go from top to bottom, see what else we can get. Mark, let's just go back to. It's not going to make the cut. Just still kind of stalling out 175. A pop, a drop. I had that one lined up today. MYOK, just expensive, kind of flat, not doing a whole bunch of anything. UAVS we'll come back to, although at this point, I don't know. It's just kind of stuck there. But maybe we'll come back to that at the very end. The CYTK trade, I say that kind of delicately because I've never really traded the stock before. Nice run up, though, across the market open, or across the day today, I guess, from 19 or underneath up towards high of the day now. Bit of a spread, lack of volume on the book, kind of similar to what we were looking at before on MGNX. Wonder, all-time highs or... Not all-time highs. Got to go way back, though, 2009. Yeah. I mean, for right now, I'm sure that there's going to be better options than this in terms of just spread and liquidity alone. That MGNX is kind of a separate case because that thing was making such a volatile run up on Thursday and, of course, moving up today right now. AMRS, one of Ben's trades he just posted here in our live chat board. Ben just took a trade from 340, got out 22-cent profit. So just to go to that, it seems like Ben jumped in as this was either testing 340 here or right off the breakout, perhaps. We called this one out earlier, guys, off the big volume spike here. As soon as I saw this pop up on Benzinga, I ended up calling this out at the time. It stalled out, but ended up popping higher, and that's where Ben ended up taking his profit. So nice catch from Ben. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, just for right now, it's hard to not put this on our list. New highs, steady trend up off of volume, and tight spread, definitely a more liquid order book. All right, cool. So John D in the chat board also just wrote he had 3 trades today on AMC. It was a minus 10 cents to begin, but then he hit one out the ballpark, 85-cent win from $5. 505 was his entry. So just to zoom out on the chart, John ended up jumping in from 581 shortly after the market opened up. I have a line here at 571, one of the pre-market levels I had in mind. So it looks like he took a 10-cent loss at first, but then, he regrouped. And I don't know if he took trades in between, but came back to AMC. John D in our chat board got in at 505 shortly afterwards and ended up closing out. Beautiful trade, John. So that means he closed out at $5.90. And then he just wrote he's back in again at 556. Nice. All right, so John's doing pretty good on this AMC trade. Give it up to John D in our chat board. So yeah, AMC for the afternoon, it's just so heavily traded. Stock trades 9.6 million shares on average a day, and that's including today, where it's trading 96 million shares, just about 10 times its volume. So I feel like a stock like this at this point has stalled out. I hope John ends up finding big support here and it runs back up for about 20, 30 cents. I think that would be very possible for AMC to do here. But, for right now, I'm not going to put this just on the main list going into the afternoon. If you did well on this trade earlier and you feel like it could be a good trade to focus on, then right away, put it on your list. I want to see if there's any others that present as good of an opportunity as we had from earlier on that AMC trade. I guess I got to skip up here. CREX. CREX also we called out earlier. Also, guys, we called it out right off big volume spike shortly prior to 12 o'clock. And again, it took a bit. Normally, we don't really tend to see these stocks run all day, but took its time, popped higher, and here it is now, even higher up towards 375, 380-ish. So yeah, similar to that AMRS trade, it's hard to not put this one on our list, at least given the recent volume coming in, still trending up higher. Let's see what we have here. What else? Now, at this point, I feel like it's a little bit easier to skim through. WPRT, this was a nice win from earlier this morning too, guys. Fausto is pretty early to the punch on this one. Called it out shortly after the market opened up, and we pretty much took full advantage of this trade. It was a nice level 1 stock at the time. Slow and steady. I mean, it had a nasty shake, but it was pretty much right around the time where we would expect for it to have a shake, if not prior to 11 o'clock, then certainly going into the late morning, early afternoon, lunchtime, so to say. For a stock that made this big of a move up, that's going to be your nastiest drop off of the day. So, it was a great win for while it lasted. All right, AMRS, I think we already put this one on our list. Ooh, a little bit of a shake, pulled back a bit. Let's see that MGNX again. That one's already on our list. Just want to check back in on this one. Now, this AVYA was one stock that did post earnings, guys, this morning. Kind of a spotty pre-market, but we ended up seeing this one make a nice push shortly after the open. Held support off of 12, moved up about 1.5 points. It's trading a lot of volume at this point in the day, and it is shortable. So if it ends up crapping out the other way, I'd say it would be a good stock to try and short and follow on the way down. So, I'm going to put this on our side list. Maybe just at the end of it all, this one will make the cut. But we already have 5 on here so far. And you guys know me already. So, sometimes we tend to look for the opportunity in a lot of these stocks. We make a bigger list. I don't want that to be the case as much. So, JMIA was a great breakout trade earlier today. Broke above resistance. We were a little late to the party on this one. I gotta say, we did well on some of the others. Leda chimed in the chat board earlier today, and she was asking, "Hey, did you guys catch the JMIA at all before?" I told her, I said, unfortunately, at least I missed it. I didn't see it called out in the room before Leda did. And you know what? It still gave us a bit of an opportunity to go in and out. So it was building this Fausto flag, so to say, right over 550. Right under 550. So as soon as it popped, I jumped in, got out right around 572, I think it was. I posted my profit in the chat board. It was under 575. So, left some money on the table as it pulled back, but it was a nice catch. Good call. And, one thing about this JMIA trade that I actually do like, if it's not for this afternoon, then it's, for at some point this week, look at the range on the daily chart, guys. We actually followed this stock off its IPO. Little history lesson on this trade. Ended up opening up back pretty much, a year and a month from this time, pretty much. April of 19, ran up across a 3-4 day span and then just tanked. So ever since it tanked and we weren't able to short it, we just wrote it off and that was it. And over time, and off of news, we traded it here and there like earnings, but you could see just the range that it's created on the daily chart. So, I always like to see a stock like JMIA trading near the highs of the day going into the close after making such a big drop off on the daily chart. So we could see the short squeeze on this type of stock, guys. I have no problem putting this on our list for right now. JMIA. I don't know, maybe if you kind of heard my voice there, I was kind of selling myself into putting this on our list. But if this one ends up breaking above resistance, above 575, perhaps 580, I wouldn't be surprised if this makes a new big run. And that's something that we don't always tend to see. But given the daily chart, this is the type of stock that can have the legs to do it. All right, so that takes us pretty much down to the bottom of the gainers list. We got a couple of others here. Looks like BCRX is making a new high or just made a new high. There is a big gap to fill on this stock too, looking at the daily chart. So that's another pattern I like to see. Yeah, I mean, we'll add this one to our list too. BCRX, definitely a nice tight spread, pretty liquid order book. So more of like a level 1 to 2 even, this BCRX. right, familiar name from last week. I think it was TTI. Just kind of gross looking chart here. All right, we'll hop over to the losers list, guys. If there's anything else that's up that you would want me to look at, and that goes across the trading room and also social, guys, let me know. Facebook, YouTube, look at. I'm gonna hop over to the losers list first. REPH. It is shortable, not hard to borrow, but man, this thing is just kind of lifeless. I mean, this thing is just flat. So we're going to pass. Looks like Bitcoin took a big hit, guys, over the weekend and this morning. So Riot, Mara, our blockchain type stocks ended up dropping off pretty nicely. 150 support for Riot. Not going to put that on the list, though. LABD, look at this, guys, down 14+% biotech ETF, I believe, triple leveraged. It also is shortable, as I had mentioned, steady downtrend. So I have no problem putting this one on our list, although it is an ETF. Keep this in mind as a good trade, at least heading into the afternoon, something to watch. All right, and then also, one from this morning I also didn't focus on as much at 9:30. Called it out a bit after the market opened up, but UA and UAA both posted earnings. Under Armour stocks ended up dropping off nicely earlier, and you could see UA at least pulling back a bit for right now. UAA Class A stock. This one I find to be a little bit faster moving up the two. This is the one I'd focus on, if anything, but both seem to be just kind of going up and down, kind of, just no direction really. I would have no problem focusing on UAA for the rest of this week. It could be a good side list stock, maybe like a nice level 1 to 2 stock to follow. Called out SIG earlier off 10, and that was when it was pulling back right down to 10 here. At this point, just, it's done nothing. So, for right now, I feel like there are others that we could focus on. If it ends up breaking lower, perhaps it could be a good short, but we're going to pass. All right, and that does it, at least for the losers list, guys. Maybe CAR, CAR. Maybe I skipped over this. Down big, holding 13, squeezing up a little bit for right now. I'm just check in with the chat board across the trading room and then again across social. See what you guys have for me first. I got to go all the way up here in the chat board. One moment. There we go. From Daniel, just a question from him. Did you say a good earning on most shares continue up after closing? No, that's not necessarily. A lot gets factored into seeing a stock's movement after an earnings report is announced, Daniel. So that's not what I was saying. What I was saying was typically before a company reports earnings, like after the bell today, INO's reporting earnings, NVAX reporting earnings. Normally, stocks don't make the type of moves that they're making today right before they post their earnings. Like 8% move, 20+% move for NVAX, right? So we normally don't see that type of range, that type of movement across a day, just moments before they post earnings. So that's all. So late to the call on this one from Ben. Pen worth watching. Yeah, new high right now. This thing's been pushing up the last week and a half also, right? Off their earnings report too. Earnings were Thursday after the bell, Thursday before the open on the 7th, before the open. So they popped shortly after. And, so far today, they've been running up very nicely. Nice trend. So it's hard to not ignore, or I should say it's hard to ignore Pen going into the close. So yeah, this one will make our list. I like this one. All right, and then from Daniel, Apple all-time high. So let's take a look. Yeah, crazy comeback. Well, just across April. Let's say not all-time high. Big difference in saying that. There's a ways to go. High of the day, definitely. But there's a big difference because when there's no historical resistance to work with, it gives the stock a much freer ability to run up. So looking at a stock like mRNA that we've been following, I was going to come to this one that Ben was trading, all-time highs the last couple of days, and this thing took off like a rocket the last 2 days as well. Same to be said for other more expensive ones from last week, like Twilio, new all-time high off of earnings last week. PayPal, these are real all-time highs. PayPal more from Thursday, still has to break out. PayPal might pop today, you never know. All right, let's see, guys. I don't have much else from the chat room. Let's go to social media now. From Peter M, APOP, MYOK, the winners today, at least for him. Pre-market certainly on APOP. The MYOK, let's get to. If you were able to short it, perhaps going into the market open, it is shortable on TradeStation. At least it doesn't say, hard to borrow. Pretty interesting. We normally don't see stocks up as much as MYOK is that are shortable. I mean, last week we caught a couple rare ones that Ben and trading we put on our list. MGNX, right? Hey, I'm sure APOP will be on our radar at some point. If not, I don't think it's going to be this afternoon now. Just looking back at it, but look for that 350 level, I guess. But if not today, then perhaps tomorrow. If not tomorrow, perhaps Wednesday. This stock is going to come back on our radar at some point this week, guys. All right. So don't throw this in the garbage just yet, as we say. All right. But I think otherwise, guys, I think that we're pretty much good to go. I have a few on the side list. Let's just quickly go to those. I don't think that I was really drooling from the mouth, foaming from the mouth on. But I got to say, this is why we come back to a couple of these guys. UAVS, from the time that we last touched base with this, it ended up breaking up through that order at 160, right? You were saying 160 was resistance. It's pulled back down now, so let's make sure it can maybe hold there and, perhaps push up higher going into the close. You know what? I don't mind just throwing the UAVS on the main list at this point now. Seeing that type of pop over a big iceberg order is enough to at least make me focus on it more. CAR, the range is there on the intraday chart to go from basically 1450 down to 13. It's been flat across support the entire afternoon. So it would be interesting to see it squeeze up. For right now, I'm not going to put this on the main list just yet. And then finally, the AVYA. Again, I kept this on the side just in case if it drops down and breaks below support, craps out the other way. It's just kind of stalling sideways right now. So my thought is still the same on this trade where, of course, it breaks through 1350, can make a new run up heading into the close, ends up crapping out the other way through 13 support. It could be a decent short opportunity to perhaps. But for right now, just not worth it. Not worth it in relation to some of the other stocks that are making the list here. All right, guys. So we got a good list, at least for right now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I didn't do too bad. Normally, I tend to put 13, 15 stocks on, so I consider 10 a win. All right, guys, so I'm going to post and tweet the list out to you guys right now. Again, for anyone streaming across social, we're going to keep this going across the rest of the day today. We might take this stream down, launch a new one across Facebook and YouTube in the next few minutes. But otherwise, we'll keep the stream going at least just for today, given the issues that we had from earlier this morning with our website, with our trading room. But again, for all of our students here, all of our trial members, cyber members, so to say, we've sent out emails earlier today in regards to your access, what to do to join the trading room if you've had issues so far. And again, we'll look to resend those emails later on this afternoon and tomorrow morning. All right. And for anyone else streaming across social media interested in finding more about CyberTrading University, just make sure that you guys call the office down below, the number down below on the banner, and one of our education advisors will pick up and provide more detail. All right. Aside from that, for all of our members here in the trading room, once again, I appreciate your patience today. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Of course, we're going to look to post this list and see what else we can get going into the end of this Monday. Take care.